Long before the Roman Empire spread across multiple continents, before the emperors ruled with authority that roasted the divine, there was a kingdom, small, humble but destined for greatness, a kingdom that would eventually shape the course of Western civilization and the eternal city. This is the story of the fall of the Roman monarchy and the birth of the Republic. In the 8th century before Christ, on the banks of the Tiber River, a small settlement began to grow. Legends tell us that a long time ago, in a time when we lived with gods and heroes, a group of citizens were destined to raise a city that would one day rule the whole known world. It all began after the fall of the mighty city of Troy. While it burned in flames, a handful of its people escaped ruin. Among them was Aeneas, a noble warrior, son of the goddess Venus, and the mortal prince Anchises, who fled across the sea, enduring storms and trials until he reached the shores of Italy. According to legend, he laid the foundation for a new culture. Mixing the Trojan nobility with the local tribes of this mixture, the Latins were born. This myth is immortalized in the Aeneid of Virgil, who represents the origins of Rome as divinely ordained, taking the first step for the creation of the myth of the eternal city. Time passed, and generations later, in the kingdom of Alba Longa, a descendant of Aeneas named Numitor was overthrown by his brother, Amulius, who, to prevent any heir from claiming the throne, would force Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia, to become a Vestal Virgin. A Vestal Virgin was a young woman who generally ranged from 6 to 10 years old, chosen among patrician families, in order to fulfill a service in the Temple of Dress. But specifically, they had to maintain the sacred fire of Vesta, since it was believed that the safety and permanence of the city depended on him. The Vestal Virgins were to maintain celibacy throughout their service, which lasted about 30 years. If any woman broke the vow, they were punished with death, usually buried alive. Although Rhea was forced to become a Vestal Virgin, this did not prevent the god of war from Mars being arrowed by the beauty of her, and after consummating the act, she gave birth to 2 twin children, Romulus and Remus. Fearing the prophecy, Amulius ordered that the babies be drowned in the Tiber River. However, fate would end up intervening. The basket carrying the twins was dragged to the ground near the Palatinate, where a wolf discovered them and nursed them in their lair. Later, a pastor named Faustulus later found the children and raised them. As the twins grew older, so did their strength and ambition, and over the years the twins would end up learning of their royal lineage, overthrowing Amulius and restoring his grandfather Numitor to the throne. But the brothers wanted more, and would end up finding a new place to start a new city of their own. At the top of the hills near the Tiber, the brothers discussed where to build and who should rule. Romulus chose the hill of the Palatine, Remo the Aventine. To resolve the dispute, they resorted to the omen, the reading of birds for the divine signs. Romulus saw more birds and claimed victory. The temperaments were lit. Remus mocked Romulus jumping on his half-built walls. In a fit of rage, or perhaps as a symbol of his city's inviolability, Romulus killed Remo. And so, in 753 BC, Romulus became the first king of Rome, giving his name to the city. Archaeology supports that Rome began as a small settlement in the Palatine sometime in the 8th century BC, probably inhabited by Latins, Sabinos, and Etruscans. This settlement transitioned from being a group of pastoral villages to a powerful city-state through a combination of military force, alliances, and intelligent politics. The first government of Rome was monarchical, with 7 legendary kings, Romulus being the first and Tarquinius Superbus the last, whose overthrow led to the foundation of the Roman Republic in 509 BC. So whether it is born of the divine will, the shedding of fraternal blood, or the ambition of the ancient tribes, the history of Rome's origin reflects the power, drama, and destiny that would define their place in history. Romulo would be followed by a series of monarchs, some legendary, other historical. Together, they formed the line of the 7 kings of Rome. The first kings laid the foundation for Roman society. The Roman monarchy reached its peak and its decline during the mandate of the last 3rd kings of Rome. The 5th king, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, an Etruscan of origin, came to power not by blood, but by ambition. It was a builder of temples, infrastructure Jew who introduced the Etruscan customs and expanded the influence of the city. His successor, Servius Tullius, would go even further, reorganizing Roman society by class and wealth. He divided people into centuries and tribes, laying the foundation for a system that would survive long after the fall of the monarchy. But he was the seventh and last king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud, whose government would destroy the monarchy. Tarquin the Proud came to power through bloodshed, murdering his predecessor, his own father-in-law, King Servius Tullius. Tarquino ruled without the consent of the Senate, ignoring tradition and ruling as a tyrant. Although he completed large projects, such as the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, his cruelty left the Roman aristocracy with resentment. Mainly because he silenced the opposition, his government was characterized by fear and nepotism. I take my voice away from the Senate and I take away their rights. However, it was during a military campaign, in which the king's son, sixth Tarquinius, committed a horrible act that would shake Rome to the core. The prince would abuse Lucretia, a noble woman known for her virtue and loyalty. After being humiliated and unable to bear the shame, Lucretia took her own life. But before doing so, she summoned her husband and allies, including Lucius June Brutus, and demanded revenge. His blood became the spark that lit a revolution. Lucius Junius Brutus, a man who was said to be slow-minded, revealed his cunning and fire. He seized the moment and gathered the Romans against tyranny. With the support of the Senate, the army, and the people, the Tarquins were expelled from Rome. The monarchy, once the center of Roman life, was abolished, and instead, a republic was born. The year was 509 before Christ. Rome was now a republic, a public affair. The power would no longer be in the hands of a king, but in the hands of elected officials. 2 consuls, elected annually, would lead the state, guided by the Senate and reviewed with each other. The Roman Republic would not be perfect. The struggles between the patricians and the commoners, between tradition and ambition, would shape their evolution. But it was a new era, one of shared governance, law, and civic duty. The fall of the Roman kingdom was not just a political change, it was the birth of an idea. That no man should have absolute power. That people's voices, however defective, should matter. And though the centuries would pass, and Rome would fall back into the hands of the emperors, the ideals of the Republic would resonate through time, in the corridors of future democracies, in the letters of free nations, and in the minds of those who believe in freedom.